Layla stood outside the tall iron gates of the Thompson mansion, her heart beating fast. She held a small bag with her belongings and wore her best dress. Even though it was old and faded, the morning sun was bright, and she could see the huge house behind the gates. It was the biggest house she had ever seen in her life. She had spent the last 3 years working in small homes, cleaning rooms and washing dishes for families who barely noticed her. But today was different. Today, she was starting a job at the mansion of a billionaire, a man named Mr. James Thompson. The pay was better and the work was steady. Layla needed this job more than anything. Her mother was sick at home, and her younger brother was still in school. Every dollar she earned mattered. The security guard at the gate checked her name on a list and opened the gate slowly. Layla walked up the long driveway, passing beautiful gardens with flowers she did not know the names of. The mansion grew larger as she walked. White columns stood at the front door, and the building seemed to touch the sky. She felt small and nervous, wondering if she truly belonged in a place like this. Mrs. Sarah Thompson, the head housekeeper, met Layla at the back entrance. She was a tall woman with gray hair tied back tightly. Her face was serious, but her eyes were kind. Mrs. Sarah showed Layla around the mansion quickly, pointing out where to clean and what supplies to use. There were so many rooms, Layla could not remember all the names. The kitchen was enormous with shiny silver machines. The bathrooms had marble floors that looked like mirrors. The bedrooms had beds so big that Layla could lie across them 3 times. "This is a place where we work hard and ask no questions," Mrs. Sarah said firmly. "You clean, you help the family, you are invisible. Do you understand?" Layla nodded. She understood. In rich homes, servants were not meant to be seen or heard. They were meant to appear only when needed and disappear when they were done. This was the way things worked. Her first day was long and tiring. Layla cleaned bathrooms until her hands were red and rough. She dusted furniture in rooms where nobody lived. She learned where to find clean towels and how to fold them the way Mrs. Sarah liked. By evening, her feet hurt and her back ached. But she had done the work well, and Mrs. Sarah gave her a small nod of approval. That nod meant everything to Layla. Over the next few days, Layla learned the routines of the mansion. She woke up at 5 in the morning and worked until 6 in the evening. The other staff members were kind but kept their distance. They did not ask personal questions, and Layla did not share her life. Everyone kept to themselves. It was safer that way. She noticed that the mansion had many parts. There was the main living area where the family spent time. There was the kitchen where 3 cooks worked. There was the study where Mr. Thompson worked sometimes. And there was a separate wing at the far end of the mansion. Mrs. Sarah told her never to go to that wing without permission. "That is where Mrs. Evelyn lives," she said quietly. "She is Mr. Thompson's mother. She lives alone, and we leave her space." Layla wondered about this mysterious woman. She had never seen her. No one talked much about her. It was as if she was a secret in the mansion. One afternoon, while cleaning the hallway near the separate wing, Layla heard a beautiful sound. It was music, soft and slow, like water flowing gently. She recognized it as piano music. Someone was playing with feeling and sadness. The sound made Layla stop and listen. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the emotion in every note. The music stopped suddenly. Layla quickly returned to her cleaning, worried that she had done something wrong by listening. But something had changed inside her. She had heard something real and honest in that music, something that broke through the silence of the mansion. That night, lying in her small room above the garage, Layla thought about the piano music. She thought about the woman named Evelyn, who lived alone in the separate wing. She wondered what her life was like, what made her play such sad music. Was she lonely like Layla sometimes felt? Layla did not know it yet. But her life was about to change completely. Her encounter with Mrs. Evelyn would become the most important friendship she would ever have. It would change not just her life, but the lives of everyone in the mansion. For now, though, she simply cleaned and worked, waiting for the day when fate would bring them together. The following week, Layla was assigned to clean the separate wing of the mansion. Mrs. Sarah gave her strict instructions. "Be quiet, do not disturb Mrs. Evelyn. Clean quickly and leave." Layla nodded, nervous about finally seeing the mysterious woman who lived apart from the rest of the family. The wing was quiet and peaceful, different from the busy main part of the mansion. The walls were decorated with paintings and photographs. Layla saw pictures of a younger woman with kind eyes, smiling in different places around the world. She guessed these were photos of Mrs. Evelyn from many years ago. As Layla cleaned the living room, she heard the piano music again, but this time it was loud and urgent. The notes were fast and angry, nothing like the gentle melody she had heard before. Layla followed the sound and found herself standing outside a closed door. The music was coming from inside without thinking clearly. Layla knocked gently on the door. The music stopped immediately. There was silence, then the door opened slowly. A tall woman with silver hair and elegant features looked at Layla with surprise. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. This was Mrs. Evelyn. Evelyn's mouth moved, but no sound came out. She was trying to speak, but Layla could not understand her words. Layla realized with a start that this woman could not hear. The piano music made sense now. Mrs. Evelyn played music because she could feel the vibrations through her body, even though she could not hear the sounds. Layla stood frozen, not knowing what to do. Mrs. Evelyn looked confused and annoyed at this interruption. She started to close the door, but Layla quickly raised her hand in a stop gesture. Then, almost by instinct, Layla slowly lifted her hand to her chin and moved it down. The sign for hello. She had learned this sign years ago when she volunteered at a community center for deaf children. Mrs. Evelyn's eyes grew wide, her hand came to her chest, and she stared at Layla with disbelief. Slowly, she raised her own hand and returned the greeting sign. Then she placed her hand over her heart, a gesture that seemed to say thank you or I am grateful. Layla smiled and Mrs. Evelyn smiled back. It was a real smile. Not the polite smile she probably gave to most people. It was the smile of someone who had found an unexpected connection. Mrs. Evelyn stepped back and invited Layla inside with a wave of her hand. The room was beautiful, with large windows overlooking the gardens. The piano sat in the corner and sheet music was scattered on tables. Books filled the shelves and photographs covered the walls. This was a room full of passion and creativity, not the quiet, lonely space Layla had imagined. Evelyn pointed to the piano and then to Layla, asking if Layla played. Layla shook her head and signed no. Evelyn then sat at the piano and played a short, happy tune. She pointed to Layla's hands, then to the piano keys, inviting her to try. Layla was terrified. She had never played piano, but she sat down and let Mrs. Evelyn guide her fingers. They played together, Layla's untrained fingers making mistakes, but Mrs. Evelyn patient and encouraging. When they finished, Evelyn stood and took Layla's hand. She led her to a large photo on the wall. In the picture, a younger Evelyn stood with a small child, both smiling at the camera. Evelyn pointed to the child and then touched her heart. Layla understood this was someone very important to her. Evelyn then pointed to Layla and asked a question with her hands, moving her fingers in a way that Layla did not fully understand. But Layla tried to explain. I am Layla. I work here, signing the words slowly. Evelyn nodded and pointed to herself. Evelyn, she signed clearly. Then she did something Layla did not expect. She hugged Layla, holding her tightly for a long moment. It was not the polite hug of a rich woman and her servant. It was the hug of someone who had been alone for too long and had found a kindred spirit. When they pulled apart, Layla saw tears in Evelyn's eyes, but she was smiling. Evelyn walked Layla to the door and waved goodbye. But before Layla left, Evelyn caught her hand and squeezed it gently, a promise of future meetings. As Layla walked back through the mansion to finish her cleaning, her heart felt different. Something important had happened. She had connected with Mrs. Evelyn in a way that had nothing to do with servant and employer. Two lonely women had found each other in a mansion full of people, and that connection would change everything. Layla knew that this was only the beginning of an extraordinary friendship. The news of Layla's connection with Mrs. Evelyn spread through the mansion like wildfire. The staff noticed that Layla was now invited to the separate wing regularly. They saw her carrying tea to Mrs. Evelyn's room. They heard laughter coming from behind closed doors, something that had not happened in years. The other servants began to whisper, curious and amazed. Mrs. Sarah noticed the change first one morning. She pulled Layla aside in the kitchen. "What are you doing with Mrs. Evelyn?" she asked directly. Her tone was not angry but serious. Layla explained simply that Mrs. Evelyn had invited her to visit, and they spent time together. Mrs. Sarah studied Layla's face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Good," she said. "That woman has been sad for too long. Word reached Mr. Thompson that his mother was happier. The billionaire businessman was usually too busy with meetings and phone calls to notice small changes in the mansion. But his assistant mentioned it casually one morning. "Your mother seems different lately, sir. The staff says she is smiling more, Mr." Thompson felt a strange emotion. He loved his mother deeply, but his busy life had pushed him away from her. His work had consumed him, and he had allowed the distance between them to grow. He decided to investigate this change himself. One evening, Mr. Thompson walked to his mother's wing. He could hear voices coming from her sitting room. He paused at the door and looked inside. What he saw surprised him completely. His mother was sitting with Layla, and they were communicating using hand signs. His mother's face was lit up with joy. Her hands moved expressively as she told stories, and Layla watched carefully, responding with signs of her own. Mr. Thompson stood quietly, watching this scene. He realized something profound in that moment. His mother was not just happy, she was truly alive. She was sharing herself with someone who understood her language, who valued her words, who treated her as an equal and not as an invalid. Mr. Thompson knocked gently on the doorframe. His mother turned and saw him for a moment. He saw uncertainty in her eyes, wondering if he would disapprove. But Mr. Thompson smiled warmly and entered the room. He sat down beside his mother and asked her to teach him some sign language. Layla was shocked, but she began patiently showing him basic signs. That night, the mansion buzzed with excitement. Everyone knew that Mr. Thompson had spent time learning sign language from his mother and Layla. The billionaire, usually distant and formal, had shown genuine interest in connecting with his mother. The staff respected Layla even more now, seeing that she had somehow reached the most powerful person in the household through her kindness to his mother. The next morning, Mr. Thompson called Layla to his study. She was nervous, wondering if she had done something wrong. But Mr. Thompson's expression was kind. "Layla," he said, "I want to thank you. My mother has been lonely for many years. Your friendship has brought her back to life." "I can see the difference." Layla felt tears in her eyes. She had not expected recognition or gratitude. She had simply wanted to connect with Mrs. Evelyn. Mr. Thompson continued, "I would like to offer you a promotion. You will become the lead assistant to my mother. Your primary job will be to spend time with her, help her with daily tasks, and continue this wonderful friendship. Your salary will increase significantly." Layla could hardly believe what she was hearing. A better job, more money, and the chance to spend more time with Mrs. Evelyn. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. Over the following weeks, Layla's status in the mansion changed dramatically. Other servants now greeted her with respect. Mrs. Sarah gave her better assignments, and the cooks made sure to save her the best food. But more importantly, Layla and Mrs. Evelyn's friendship deepened. They spent hours together. Sharing their life stories, Layla learned that Mrs. Evelyn had become deaf after an illness when she was 30 years old. She had lost her hearing suddenly, and the loss had devastated her. Her husband had been kind, but he was often away on business. Her son, Mr. Thompson, had been young and busy with building his empire. So Mrs. Evelyn had retreated into her private wing, finding comfort only in her piano and her books. Mrs. Evelyn had grieved the loss of connection with the world. She had thought her life was over, but then Layla arrived like a gift, bringing back the possibility of communication and friendship. One afternoon, Mrs. Evelyn took Layla's hand and signed slowly. "You have given me a second life. You are not just my helper. You are my family," Layla signed back. "You are my family too." In that moment, both women understood that their meeting was not by accident. It was fate, it was destiny, it was meant to happen. The mansion had brought two lonely souls together, and their connection would inspire everyone around them. The whispers in the mansion were no longer questions or doubts. They were stories of hope and transformation, stories that reminded everyone that true wealth was not measured in money, but in genuine human connection. Months had passed since Layla and Mrs. Evelyn first met. Their friendship had grown stronger with each passing day, becoming the heart of the Thompson mansion. What had started as a simple hello sign had blossomed into a deep bond that transformed both their lives. But true trust, Layla would soon discover, required vulnerability and honesty from both sides. One morning, Mrs. Evelyn seemed withdrawn. She sat by the window, staring out at the gardens without interest. Layla could sense that something was troubling her. She sat beside Mrs. Evelyn and waited patiently. Sometimes the best communication required silence. Not words. After a long time, Mrs. Evelyn began to sign, but her movements were slow and hesitant. She told Layla a story from her past, a story she had never shared with anyone. Many years ago, before she lost her hearing, Mrs. Evelyn had been a musician. She had performed in concert halls across Europe, playing piano to audiences of thousands. Music was her life, her passion, her identity. Then came the illness, a fever that lasted for weeks. When it finally broke, something else had broken too. Her hearing was gone. The doctors said it was permanent. Mrs. Evelyn signed that she had felt like she had died that day. The woman who loved music could no longer hear it. The performer lost her greatest gift. Layla watched as tears streamed down Mrs. Evelyn's face. She reached out and held her hand, understanding now why the piano was so important, why Mrs. Evelyn had played with such emotion. The piano was not just an instrument. It was her connection to the world she had lost. "I am sorry," Layla signed. "I am so sorry," Mrs. Evelyn squeezed her hand. "But now I have you," she signed. "You here for me. You help me hear the world again through your ears." That day, something shifted between them. Layla understood that trust meant allowing someone to see your deepest pain. It meant showing the broken parts of yourself and knowing that person would not judge you or leave. In return, Layla shared her own story. She told Mrs. Evelyn about her difficult childhood, about her mother's illness, about the struggles of being a young black woman in a world that often did not value her. She signed about the nights she cried, wondering if life would ever get better. She shared her fears and her dreams. Mrs. Evelyn listened with complete attention. When Layla finished, Mrs. Evelyn embraced her tightly. In that hug was understanding, acceptance, and unconditional love. It was the hug of someone who truly saw Layla, not as a servant or helper, but as a complete human being worthy of respect and affection. After this day, their routine changed. They began having weekly lessons together. Mrs. Evelyn taught Layla proper sign language, the kind used in deaf communities, not just basic household signs. Layla learned that sign language was not just a tool for communication. It was an art form, a language with grammar and poetry. Mrs. Evelyn showed her how emotions could be expressed through the curve of hands, the angle of arms, the expressions on the face. In return, Layla taught Mrs. Evelyn about the sounds of the world. She would describe music using hand movements. Trying to paint a picture of melody and rhythm, she taught Mrs. Evelyn to feel vibrations on different surfaces, showing her how the bass of music could be felt through the floor, how the gentle notes could be felt through her fingertips. One afternoon, they sat in the garden together. Layla described the sound of birds singing in the trees. Mrs. Evelyn closed her eyes and imagined. Then she took Layla's hand and placed it on her chest. Where her heart beat, she signed, "This is my music now. This is what I hear." Layla felt the steady rhythm of Mrs. Evelyn's heartbeat and understood profoundly what she meant. Life itself was music, the heartbeat was the drum. The breath was the wind, the body was the instrument. Mr. Thompson noticed the deepening bond between his mother and Layla. He began joining them in the garden sometimes, learning sign language alongside his mother. He would apologize to his mother through signs. Expressing regret for the years of distance, Mrs. Evelyn forgave him immediately, signing that the past did not matter, only the present and future mattered. The mansion staff watched this transformation with wonder. They saw the billionaire businessman sitting in the garden, holding his mother's hand, learning to communicate in a way he had never tried before. They saw Layla as not just a servant, but as a bridge that connected a fractured family. Mrs. Sarah pulled Layla aside one day. "You have done something remarkable," she said. "You have given Mrs. Evelyn her voice back, not through sound, but through connection." Layla understood that true trust was not built quickly. It was built through shared pain, through vulnerability, through the daily choice to show up for someone. It was built through honesty and acceptance. Through Mrs. Evelyn and Layla's friendship, the entire mansion had learned a valuable lesson, that the deepest connections come not from what we have in common, but from our willingness to understand and honor each other's differences. Mr. Thompson had decided to host a magnificent dinner party. It was a celebration of his company's latest business success, but it was also something more. It was a chance to show the world that his family was whole again, that something beautiful had happened within the walls of his mansion. The invitations went out to important business partners, influential people from the city, and close family friends, everyone who mattered in Mr. Thompson's world would be there. The mansion was transformed. Flowers decorated every room. Elegant chandeliers sparkled with light. And the finest chefs worked in the kitchen preparing an exquisite meal. Layla helped Mrs. Evelyn prepare for the evening. She chose a stunning blue dress that brought out the depth of Mrs. Evelyn's eyes. They spent time doing her hair and makeup together, Mrs. Evelyn looking in the mirror and smiling at her reflection. She had not attended a formal event in over 5 years. "Are you nervous?" Layla signed. Mrs. Evelyn nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted her dress. But then she took Layla's hand and squeezed it. "With you beside me, I am not afraid." The dinner party began in the evening. The grand ballroom was filled with well-dressed guests. Music played softly in the background, and waiters moved through the crowd with trays of champagne and appetizers. Mr. Thompson greeted each guest personally, but his eyes kept drifting to his mother when Mrs. Evelyn entered the ballroom with Layla. Conversations paused. People turned to look, wondering why the reclusive Mrs. Evelyn had emerged from her private quarters. She looked radiant, confident, and alive, Mr. Thompson went to her immediately and offered his arm. He guided her through the room, introducing her to guests, signing to her as they walked. Many guests were surprised by this interaction. They had never seen the billionaire businessman use sign language. They had not known that Mrs. Evelyn was deaf. Mr. Thompson spoke openly about his mother's deafness and her extraordinary spirit. He introduced Layla as the person who had changed their lives. During dinner, Mr. Thompson stood up and tapped his glass. The room fell silent. Everyone expected a business speech, but what he gave was something far more personal. "I want to share a story with you," he began. "A story about my mother. Evelyn Thompson. Many years ago, my mother lost her hearing. It was a tragedy that took away her music. Her connection to the world. For years, she lived in isolation, and I was too busy with my work to truly see her pain." He paused, his voice becoming emotional. "Then someone came into our lives, a young woman named Layla, who saw my mother not as disabled or broken, but as a human being worthy of love and respect. Layla learned sign language, she spent time with my mother, and she rebuilt a bridge that I had allowed to crumble." Mr. Thompson looked directly at Layla. "Because of Layla's kindness and compassion, my mother has found her voice again, not through sound but through connection. Through love tonight, I want to introduce you to the real treasure in my life, my mother, Evelyn, and the remarkable woman who reminded me what truly matters." He sat down, and the room erupted in applause. Many guests had tears in their eyes. They saw in this story something universal, something about human connection and redemption. Then something unexpected happened. Mrs. Evelyn stood up. Layla immediately stood beside her, ready to interpret, but Mrs. Evelyn did something that shocked everyone. She began to sing. Her voice was soft and rusty from disuse, but it was beautiful. She was singing a classical piece, the kind of song she used to perform in concert halls. The melody was haunting and full of emotion. Tears streamed down her face as she sang, pouring all her pain, her joy, her gratitude into the song. Layla stood amazed. Mrs. Evelyn had not sung in decades. The doctors said her voice would be damaged from disuse, but love and courage had unlocked something within her. The guests sat in stunned silence, experiencing something sacred and rare. When the song ended, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the applause began, thunderous and heartfelt. People stood up, giving her a standing ovation. Many were crying openly, moved by the rawness and beauty of Mrs. Evelyn's performance. Mrs. Evelyn looked at Layla and smiled, then she signed, "I found my voice through you." Layla rushed to her and embraced her, both of them crying happy tears. The guests watched this moment of pure human connection, and many realized that they had witnessed something transformative. It was not just about a deaf woman singing. It was about two women from different worlds finding each other and creating something beautiful together. After dinner, guests approached Layla to thank her. Some asked about sign language, wanting to learn. Others shared their own stories of family members who were deaf or disabled. Layla listened to each person with genuine interest. She realized that by connecting with Mrs. Evelyn, she had also opened doors for many other people to see deaf individuals differently. As the evening ended and guests left the mansion, Mr. Thompson pulled Layla aside. "You have changed everything," he said, "not just for my mother, but for everyone who witnessed tonight. You have shown us what it means to truly care for another human being." Layla felt humble and grateful. She had come to the mansion as a servant seeking employment. But she had found so much more. She had found purpose. She had found family, and most importantly, she had discovered the power of human connection to transform lives. The morning after the dinner party, news of Mrs. Evelyn's remarkable performance spread through the city. Articles appeared in newspapers, headlines praising the billionaire's mother who had overcome her deafness to sing. Social media buzzed with videos of her singing, people sharing the story with millions around the world. But the real focus of attention was Layla. Journalists wanted to know who this mysterious young woman was, who had inspired such transformation. They sought out information about her background, her journey, and her connection with Mrs. Evelyn. Within days, Layla's story became a symbol of hope and human kindness. People called her a hero. Though Layla felt uncomfortable with such titles, Mr. Thompson saw the positive attention his company was receiving and recognized Layla's true value. He decided to do something unprecedented. He called Layla to his office, a place she had rarely been. "Layla," he said formally, "I have a proposition for you. I want to promote you to Director of Family Services. This is a new position I am creating. You will have authority over household management. You will oversee staff relations, and most importantly, you will continue your work with my mother. Your salary will triple, and you will have your own office and team." Layla was stunned. She had come from nothing, and now she was being offered a position of real power and responsibility. "Mr. Thompson, I am honored," she said carefully, "but I worry that other staff members will resent me. They might see this as unfair." Thompson smiled. "That is why I respect you. You think of others before yourself. But let me tell you something, Layla. Everyone in this mansion has seen what you did for my mother. They have seen your character, your kindness, your strength. They will follow your leadership." Layla accepted the position, and Mr. Thompson's prediction proved correct. The staff welcomed her new role. Many servants had family members or friends who were deaf or disabled, and they saw in Layla someone who understood the importance of inclusion and respect. Mrs. Sarah became Layla's closest advisor, helping her navigate the complexities of managing the household. With her new position, Layla made significant changes. She created a training program for staff about disability awareness and communication. She ensured that the mansion was fully accessible for Mrs. Evelyn and anyone else with disabilities. She hired several deaf individuals for various positions in the household, believing that diverse perspectives made the team stronger. One of her hires was a young deaf man named Marcus, who worked as a groundskeeper. Marcus had struggled to find employment, facing discrimination in many places, but Layla recognized his potential and his kindness within months. Marcus had transformed the gardens into something spectacular, and the other staff members learned sign language to communicate with him. The Thompson Mansion became known in the city as a place of progressive thinking and genuine inclusion. People began to see it not just as a symbol of wealth, but as a symbol of compassion and human values. However, success brought challenges that Layla had not anticipated. One evening, she overheard a conversation between Mr. Thompson and a business associate. The man was suggesting that Mr. Thompson was exploiting Layla's story for publicity, that her promotion was merely a marketing strategy. Layla felt hurt and confused. She began to question whether anything was real, whether her friendship with Mrs. Evelyn was genuine, or just part of a grand narrative for public consumption. That night she could not sleep. The next morning, Mrs. Evelyn found Layla sitting alone in the garden, looking troubled through sign language. Mrs. Evelyn asked what was wrong. Layla hesitated, then decided to be honest. She shared what she had overheard, her fears and doubts. Mrs. Evelyn took Layla's face in her hands and looked directly into her eyes. "Listen to me," she signed emphatically. "What we have is real. No one can take that from us. What people say, what they think, it does not matter. What matters is the truth between us," she continued. "You have changed my life. That is not a story or a marketing strategy. That is the truth. I love you like a daughter. And that love is real." Layla cried, releasing all the tension and doubt she had been carrying. Mrs. Evelyn held her, and in that moment, Layla understood something profound. True validation did not come from the world's recognition. It came from genuine human connection, inspired by this clarity. Layla decided to use her position and platform for something bigger. She established the Layla and Evelyn Foundation, dedicated to providing sign language education and support to deaf communities. She used her own salary to fund the initiative, and Mr. Thompson matched her contributions generously. The foundation began offering free sign language classes to the public. It provided scholarships for deaf students wanting to pursue higher education. It created job training programs to help deaf individuals find meaningful employment. Within a year, the foundation had helped hundreds of people. Layla was invited to speak at universities and conferences about disability inclusion and workplace diversity. She wrote articles for magazines, sharing her story and advocating for change. She became a voice for the voiceless, not in a patronizing way, but as an advocate working alongside the deaf community. Awards and recognitions came. She received the Community Service Award, the Humanitarian Recognition, and many others. But the recognition that meant the most to her came from Mrs. Evelyn one evening. Mrs. Evelyn gave Layla a beautiful journal. Inside the first page, she had written in her careful handwriting, "To Layla, my daughter, my friend, my inspiration, thank you for giving me back my life." As Layla held the journal, she understood that her journey was far from over. She had started as a servant seeking employment, and she had become so much more. She was a bridge between worlds, a testament to the power of compassion, and a living example that one person truly can change everything. 2 years had passed since the grand dinner party that changed everything. The Layla and Evelyn Foundation had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as a small initiative had blossomed into a regional organization with offices in 3 cities, employing dozens of staff members, many of whom were deaf or had disabilities. Layla stood in the foundation's main office, looking at the walls covered with photographs. Each picture told a story of someone whose life had been transformed. There was Marcus, the groundskeeper who had become the foundation's outdoor education coordinator, teaching children about nature through sign language. There was Sophie, a deaf teenager who had received a scholarship and was now studying engineering at university. There was James, who had been unemployed for 5 years and was now a successful project manager at a major company. Mrs. Evelyn had become the foundation's honorary chair. She spent her days visiting communities, sharing her story and inspiring others. Her voice, both literal and metaphorical, had become powerful. She recorded videos in sign language, and interpreters translated her messages to hearing audiences. She wrote a memoir about her journey, titled Finding Voice in Silence, which became a bestseller. The relationship between Layla and Mrs. Evelyn had evolved into something sacred. They were no longer just employer and employee. They were family. They lived together now, Mrs. Evelyn having insisted that Layla move from her small room above the garage into the main mansion. They shared meals, attended foundation events together, and spent quiet evenings planning for the future. One morning, Mrs. Evelyn woke with chest pain. The doctors diagnosed her with a heart condition that required surgery. Layla was terrified. The thought of losing Mrs. Evelyn felt unbearable. She sat by the hospital bed, holding her hand. Unable to stop the tears, Mrs. Evelyn, even in her hospital gown, remained strong. She squeezed Layla's hand and signed, "Do not cry, I am not going anywhere. I still have so much work to do." The surgery was successful, and after weeks of recovery, Mrs. Evelyn was back at the foundation, though moving more slowly. The experience had been sobering for both women, reminding them how precious their time together truly was. It was after Mrs. Evelyn's recovery that they made a decision that would solidify their bond forever. Layla legally adopted Mrs. Evelyn as her mother, and Mrs. Evelyn adopted Layla as her daughter. It was not a legal formality they took lightly, but a profound commitment to family. In the courtroom, they signed the documents together, tears of joy streaming down their faces. "You are my family," Mrs. Evelyn signed. "You are my family too," Layla signed back. With this legal recognition came new responsibilities. The foundation expanded its mission. Layla and Mrs. Evelyn established a residential program for deaf youth aging out of foster care, providing them with housing, education, and job training. They created mentorship programs pairing deaf professionals with young deaf individuals, showing them the possibilities of their futures. The Thompson Mansion, once a symbol of isolated wealth, had transformed into a gathering place for the deaf community. Every month, the foundation held community events there, potluck dinners where deaf and hearing people mingled and learned from each other. Sign language classes were held in the ballroom where the famous dinner party had taken place. Mr. Thompson watched his mother and Layla work together with pride and admiration. He became a major donor to the foundation, not just providing money, but also using his business expertise to help the organization grow sustainably. He served on the board of directors, though he made sure that Layla and Mrs. Evelyn remained the primary decision-makers. Other businesses began to follow the Thompson family's example. They reached out to the foundation for consultation on creating inclusive workplaces. Layla found herself advising companies on disability awareness training and accessibility. She became a consultant, helping organizations understand that inclusion was not charity, but good business practice. Universities invited Layla to speak to their students. She shared her journey from a struggling young woman to a social entrepreneur. She talked about the importance of seeing people beyond their circumstances, beyond their disabilities, beyond societal labels. Her speeches inspired many young people to pursue careers in social work, disability advocacy, and community development. One particularly meaningful moment came when Layla received an invitation to speak at her old high school. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, and community members. Layla stood at the podium, remembering the scared girl she had been, unsure if she would ever amount to anything. "I want to tell you something," she said, looking out at the young faces. "Your circumstances do not define your future. I came from poverty, from struggle, from a world that told me I was not good enough. But I chose to believe differently. I chose to see the value in myself and in others. And that choice changed everything." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You have the power to change the world, not through grand gestures, but through genuine human connection, through seeing people, truly seeing them, through treating everyone with dignity and respect, through believing that every human being has value." The standing ovation lasted for minutes. Afterward, students lined up to talk to her, sharing their own stories, asking for advice, some crying as they told her how much her words meant to them. Mrs. Evelyn watched from the side of the stage, pride written all over her face. After the event, she embraced Layla. "You are making a difference," she signed. "You are changing the world." That evening, Layla and Mrs. Evelyn sat in the garden of the Thompson mansion, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. They sat in comfortable silence, their hands intertwined. Layla reflected on her journey, from a maid who knew basic sign language to a social entrepreneur leading a regional foundation, from loneliness to a deep transformative family bond, from searching for purpose to finding it through connection with another human being. "What do you think happens next, Mrs. Evelyn signed?" "I do not know," Layla signed back. "But I know we will face it together," and that was enough. That was everything. Their story had become a beacon of hope for thousands of people, but for them it remained simple. It was about two women who had found each other, who had chosen to see the best in one another, and who had built a legacy not of wealth or power, but of love, dignity, and transformation. 10 years had passed since Layla first walked through the iron gates of the Thompson mansion. 10 years since she heard the piano music that would change her life forever. The Layla and Evelyn Foundation had grown into a nationally recognized organization, with offices in 15 cities, serving over 10,000 people annually. But the real legacy was measured not in numbers, but in the countless lives transformed by compassion and human connection. Mrs. Evelyn was now 78 years old. Her health had declined slowly over the years, but her spirit remained as vibrant as ever. She moved more carefully, walked with a cane, but her mind was sharp, and her passion for the work never wavered. Layla, now in her mid-30s, had become a respected voice in disability advocacy, speaking internationally about inclusion and social change. The Thompson Mansion had been transformed into the Layla and Evelyn Center for Inclusion. The separate wing where Mrs. Evelyn had lived in isolation was now the headquarters of the foundation. The grand ballroom where the famous dinner party had taken place was used for conferences and community gatherings. The gardens that Marcus had tended so lovingly had become a therapeutic space for healing and reflection. One morning, Mrs. Evelyn asked Layla to sit with her in the garden. This was their favorite place, where they had spent countless hours together over the decades. Mrs. Evelyn held Layla's hand and began to sign slowly. Deliberately, "I want to tell you something important, Mrs. Evelyn signed. "I am not afraid of dying. I have lived a full life. A life I thought was over when I lost my hearing. But you gave me back my life. You showed me that loss is not the end. It is a transformation." Layla felt tears welling up. But Mrs. Evelyn continued, "After I am gone, I want you to keep doing this work. I want you to continue building bridges between worlds. I want you to remember that every single person has value, that every connection matters. Do not talk about dying, Layla signed, her hands shaking. It is not sad, Mrs. Evelyn signed. It is the natural cycle of life, but listen to me, our work is not finished. There are so many people still waiting to be seen, still waiting to be valued. That conversation marked a turning point. Layla realized that the foundation needed to be stronger, more sustainable, more independent. She worked tirelessly to build an endowment fund, to train new leaders who could continue the mission, to create systems that would outlast both her and Mrs. Evelyn. The foundation launched several new initiatives. They created the Evelyn's Voice program, which trained deaf individuals to become advocates and educators in their communities. They established the Layla's Bridge Scholarship, providing full scholarships to deaf students pursuing higher education. They developed employment partnerships with major corporations, placing thousands of people with disabilities in meaningful jobs. Marcus, who had started as a groundskeeper, had become the director of community outreach. He trained sign language interpreters, worked with schools to implement inclusive policies, and traveled to rural areas bringing the foundation's resources to underserved communities. He often said that Layla had given him not just a job but a purpose. Sophie, the deaf teenager who had received a foundation scholarship, had graduated top of her engineering class and now worked as the foundation's chief technology officer. She had developed an innovative app that connected deaf individuals with job opportunities, created platforms for sign language learning, and enabled real-time translation during conversations. The foundation's impact extended far beyond employment and education. They had changed policies at hospitals, ensuring that deaf patients received proper interpretation services. They had worked with schools to implement comprehensive deaf education programs. They had consulted with governments on disability rights legislation. Layla received numerous awards and honors. She was named one of the most influential social entrepreneurs in the country. Universities offered her teaching positions, which she accepted while maintaining her work at the foundation. She wrote a book about her journey, titled Hands That Speak, detailing her transformation from a struggling maid to a force for social change. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition came from the communities they served. Every year, the foundation held a gala celebrating their work. The event was attended by thousands of people, deaf and hearing, from all walks of life. They came to share stories of transformation, to celebrate achievements. To honor Layla and Mrs. Evelyn at one such gala, a woman approached Layla with tears streaming down her face. "You do not know me," the woman said, "but my daughter is deaf. For years I thought her life was limited. I thought she could not achieve anything. But because of your foundation, she is now in college, studying to become a teacher. She wants to teach other deaf children. She wants to give them hope, just like you gave her hope." Layla embraced the woman, understanding that this was the true measure of success, not awards or recognition, but the ripple effect of compassion spreading through families, communities, and generations. Mrs. Evelyn's health declined gradually over the following months. She spent more time resting, but continued to attend foundation events when she could. Her presence was powerful, even in her frailty. People approached her with reverence and gratitude, thanking her for the work she had done, for the life she had lived. One evening, surrounded by Layla, Mr. Thompson, and the foundation staff, Mrs. Evelyn passed away peacefully in her sleep. The grief was profound, but it was tempered by the knowledge that she had lived a complete life, that she had made a lasting impact. Her funeral was attended by thousands of people. The mayor proclaimed it a day of remembrance for Mrs. Evelyn Thompson, a woman who had overcome deafness, isolation, and despair to become an inspiration for millions. Layla delivered the eulogy, her hands moving through sign language as interpreters translated her words. "Mrs. Evelyn taught me that silence is not emptiness," Layla said. "It is fullness. It is the space where real connection happens. She taught me that disability is not a tragedy. It is simply a different way of being in the world. She taught me that love is the most powerful force for change." The foundation established the Evelyn Thompson Award, given annually to individuals who demonstrate exceptional commitment to disability advocacy and inclusion. Layla became the first recipient, but she quickly established that the award would go to community members, not to herself. She believed in elevating voices from the community, not creating new heroes. Years continued to pass. Layla remained the executive director of the foundation, but she gradually mentored new leaders to take on larger roles. She wanted the organization to thrive beyond her lifetime, just as Mrs. Evelyn had wanted. Layla's story became legendary in disability advocacy circles. Young people entering the field studied her work. Universities taught about her approach to social change. But Layla remained humble, always crediting Mrs. Evelyn, always emphasizing that she had simply done what was right, what was human, what was necessary. In her later years, Layla often sat in the gardens of the Thompson mansion, in the same spot where she and Mrs. Evelyn had spent so many afternoons. She would look at the photographs on the foundation's walls, at the faces of thousands of people whose lives had been changed. She thought about that first day when she walked through the iron gates, nervous and uncertain. She thought about the piano music that had led her to Mrs. Evelyn. She thought about how one act of kindness, one choice to see another person's humanity, had set in motion a chain of events that transformed not just 2 lives, but countless lives. The foundation continued its work, expanding into new communities, reaching new populations, but the core mission remained the same: to see people truly see them, to value every human being regardless of their abilities or disabilities, to build a world where connection is the foundation of everything. And in that vision, in that work, in the countless lives touched and transformed, the legacy of Layla and Evelyn lived on, a testament to the power of compassion, the strength of human connection, and the profound truth that one person, armed with nothing but kindness and determination, can indeed change the world.